Well, it's been a tough year for the Springdale Bulldogs. On October 28th, they traveled once again back down Highway 71 in hopes of eradicating the losing streak that they have been on here in the Quad 4A West. Their opponent tonight is the Van Buren Pointers. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Brooks, and I'm going to be providing the play-by-play and the color analysis and just about everything else for this exclusive playback on Channel 21. We're also providing tonight the video for the Fox channel, or at least the public access channel here in Crawford County for Van Buren, though their radio announcer will be calling the play-by-play for them. You see there the toss in the air, and someone's going to defer the second half. It's homecoming for Van Buren, and so you see the Pointers coming in. Springdale is going to kick off. Van Buren is going to receive the ball first. And one of the things that is going to be a key for this football game is going to be the aspect of Van Buren's offense against what has been the strength of Springdale's football team thus far this year, their defense. Van Buren runs a wishbone set. Sean Gilstrap is the quarterback. He's a senior. He knows how to run the option well. And he has some good running backs in the backfield with him. The key in the game is going to be the fullback play. If you've ever watched any wishbone team, you know one of the very first things they'll try to establish is the fullback inside. That's Damon Dunn, and he's a hoss at 5'10", 220 pounds. They have two running backs who can carry the ball very well. Number 45, Tony Johnson, and number 42, Barry Morton, both senior halfbacks. And Johnson had a 70-yard touchdown run earlier this year against the Fayetteville Bulldogs. Springdale in an unfamiliar situation for their team in that they have no opportunity to go to the playoffs. It's the first time in 15 years they've been this deep in the season with no chance. Tonight they play the role of a spoiler. The Bulldogs could very easily have only one loss this year. They have been involved in some tough football games, and their record in no way indicates the kind of program that Springdale has this year. So we're set for the kickoff. Corey Wagner, who has done a marvelous job for the Bulldogs this year with the kicking duties, particularly punting, kicks off, and he's got a good kickoff. It's going to go down to about the 9-yard line. It's going to be taken, and oh, he is hit, popped just with a great hit there on him by Ray West. So that was Johnson, who is their running back, and we're going to be seeing a lot of him as you see West going off the sideline. And we'll be providing coverage, as we said, for Crawford County's access channel, and so you'll see us have some shots of Van Buren Pointers, and that's the reason why we generally have pictures just of Springdale kids, but tonight we've got to be fair in that. So it is a first down situation. The ball is at the 23-yard line as Van Buren sets up on their first possession. And there again, you see that inside play, and they get good running room out of that. That was Damon Dunn, the fullback we talked about, and he's a hoss, and he's going to make about 5 yards. Ben Weber brings him down. That's exactly what Van Buren is going to want to do, establish that inside running game. And when you establish the play of the fullback, it then opens up the other possibilities in that triple option. There's Gilstrap, the quarterback, under center. Long count. He takes the snap, fakes to the fullback, pitches to the outman, and that's Johnson. We're going to have a penalty, and this one's going to come back, and it's going to be a good thing because he's going to go all the way for a touchdown. It's going to be brought back on an illegal block. So the Pointers are going to suffer major big-time disappointment. It's going to be a holding call against the Pointers. The Bulldogs had a man out there on the pitch man, and he was tackled. And so about all Mr. Johnson got to do on that was stretch his legs out. So big break for the Bulldogs. First penalty of the game. A holding penalty is going to back the Pointers up. There's a 2nd and 5 situation, or 2nd and 6. About a log 4. Now the partisan crowd here boos it. Clearly was a hold situation. Well, we've been in a lot of unique situations covering the Bulldogs down through the years, and probably if we had a vote of least favorite stadium, we might make it this one. But they've been very gracious to us. They know they've got a facility that's not up to par with what they'd like to have. The folks here have been good to work with, and we appreciate their hospitality. The one thing I can say that's different about this year's edition of the Pointers and Bulldogs is it's not snowing as it was last year in the Snow Bowl. So that's a big, huge penalty, not only in the fact that it wipes out the touchdown, but it brings up a 2nd and 18 situation. A little motion in the backfield, but the officials, I guess, give them a break. And there again is the excellent play of Damon Dunn. He is just extremely hard to bring down as the Bulldogs have a tough time bringing him down. He's going to get back up close to the line of scrimmage, but it's going to set up a 3rd and 12 situation. Now, the Pointers are not given to passing very much, and again, if you know anything about a wishbone set, it's not the kind of offense that you normally think of in terms of making up long yardage on 3rd and long or coming from behind. So we'll see what the Pointers do here. Gilstrap hands off inside, and they're going to bring him down, and so the Bulldogs are going to have held 4 downs, forcing the Pointers to punt, but we'll have to see what kind of a emotional impact having a touchdown call back will have upon them. There you see some of the crowd that was on hand here from Van Buren. A fair contingent of Bulldog fans made it down, certainly one of the smallest road crowds we've seen in many, many years. There's a snap, and it's a good snap. Pretty good kick. It's going to come low and take a Van Buren bounce and go inside the 30-yard line. Big break for Van Buren there. The ball is going to be set up on the 28-yard line, and that is where Springdale is going to set up for its first possession of the night. 9-11 is where we're at in the quarter. Appreciate you being with us for this playback. If you're watching on Tuesday night, remind you that it will be played again 7 o'clock on Thursday evening. And, of course, remind you that this week, big Fayetteville-Springdale battle at Bulldog Stadium this year. We'll set the lineup for you in just a second. He hands off inside. Good running room. That was number 36, Corey Wagner, who carried on the play for the Bulldogs. Jim Ed Reed at quarterback. So we try to set up the offensive line for you. Interior linemen Jonathan Lewis, Clint Penalto, Rick Hammonds, Mark Blackwell, and Lloyd Beeks at tackle. Jim Ed Reed in the backfield with him is Josh Trollinger and Corey Wagner. Trollinger's got the ball, and he dives forward, and he's going to have a first down. And that's going to be their first of the night. Good carry there by Josh Trollinger. And if Trollinger has a good game, it is generally proven that the Springdale Bulldogs are going to have a good game. So good run there by Trollinger. The Bulldogs need to get out front in a hurry. The first quarter has been their biggest quarter by far, as they have scored 46 points in the first quarter as opposed to their opposition's 5. So we'll see what they do here. Reed pulls the ball out, doing a little triple option of his own, and he's up close to the midfield stripe and is going to be a couple of yards short from the first down marker. Going to be marked at about the 48-yard line. Good run there by Reed. You'd think that team that practiced against the Wishbone would do a little bit better job, but they had some difficulty there, and Reed was able to get around the corner and turn it upfield and avoid a tackler. And good yardage. 2nd down and 2 is where we stand here. So the Bulldogs putting together a small drive. We'll see if they can sustain it. Wolf goes in motion. He hands off inside to Corey Wagner. He breaks several tackles and gets down into Pointer territory. That was reminiscent of what occurred last year. We certainly hope that happens again this year. Springdale just ran all over Van Buren. They came in on sort of a down note, and Springdale just took advantage of that last year. And so far, the Bulldogs moving the ball very, very well. They have the ball now at the 36-yard line of Van Buren. 7:20 in the first quarter. Trollinger and Wagner with Price split wide. He hands off to Trollinger around the right end. He cuts back inside, and he's going to make a couple, maybe about 3 yards on the carry. So many of you have commented to me, boy, Mark, can you help us out, get us a victory? I sure wish we could, and we hope tonight as you watch this, we're going to be watching the replay of a victory. Bulldogs need to gain some momentum going into that big rivalry to end the season against Fayetteville. 2nd and 7, Trollinger goes in motion. He hands off inside to Wagner, and I tell you what, the offensive line for the Bulldogs are providing some gaping holes, and Wagner bounces down. He's to about the 26-yard line. It's going to bring up a 3rd and 1 situation. Price comes in with the play. There you see the Bulldogs as they break the huddle.
Brings a 3rd and 1 from the 26-yard line.
3rd and 1, you'd think the Bulldogs in this end of the field would be going for it, even if they didn't make it here. He's going to come down the end. He's got the 1st and 10. He's down loose along the sideline, cuts back inside, is inside the 10-yard line, and the Bulldogs have a 1st and goal situation, and Jim Ed Reed surprisingly is showing the Pointers, who are an option team, how the option is to be run. Well, this is something that Springdale has not seen for a while. The Bulldogs shut out last week. And if you add it up and go back, you've looked at about 7 quarters since the Bulldogs have scored in the first quarter against Russellville. Now, we'll try to give you the right angles. We've got some problems with our angles. Straight ahead run, Corey Wagner, 6-yard TD run. And at the 5:36 marks, the Bulldogs go up on a Corey Wagner run. And I'll tell you what, they may be able to run that all night long, because just a huge hole open there. Jonathan Lewis, Clint Penalto, and Rick Hammonds doing an excellent job dominating the line of scrimmage. Corey Wagner setting up for the PAT. The kick is up, and it's good. And the score is Springdale 7, Van Buren nothing. And with that, we'll be back after this message.
With 5 minutes and 36.
We're on a first-name basis in communities from Magnolia to Mountain Home. We back the hometown heroes in dozens of high schools throughout the state. And for years, we've helped with first dates, weddings, and second homes. Last Saturday, we made the loan for the boat and had quick cash for the bait, too. In fact, wherever you live, a little of us will rub off on you. Because no matter where you go in Arkansas, the local color is true blue.
Welcome back. Springdale Bulldogs have gone on top 7-0.
Wagner to kick off.
And sort of shocked the Van Buren Pointers here after they had a touchdown call back. Corey Wagner gets a little squib kick off. It's picked up at about the 28-yard line. And he's finally going to be brought down at about the 34.
Kickoff return by number 17, Adam Pendergrass.
And with some Bulldogs shaking up on the play.
By number 82, Stephen
Kirby
Palmer.
Burks comes limping back into the defensive huddle. Not sure exactly what happened to Kirby. Well, the Bulldogs scored a touchdown on their first possession, and the Pointers on their second possession set up at the 35-yard line. Gilstrap again, a long play, and just a great, tremendous play by a sophomore, Brandon Hobbs. Did a tremendous, fought off the block and made a great tackle. And the great thing I think about that is that Brandon Hobbs is going to be here for 2 more years after this to make those kinds of plays. And he stepped in for the Bulldogs last week, and what a key play. The thing that you need to do from a defensive standpoint is stuff the wishbone on the first down, and the Bulldogs are able to do just exactly that. 2nd and 16. Gilstrap hands off to the fullback, and he's met by Smith Peters and a host of other Bulldogs. And unless Van Buren is able to do something, it may be that the Springdale Bulldogs have figured out the keys to handling this wishbone set. Of course, if you ever have watched a wishbone run to perfection, you know that it can be a dangerous offense. And Gilstrap has yet been able to cut loose or get the ball to Tony Johnson other than the one run that was called back. 3rd and 14. Gilstrap again takes the ball. He's got a man looking for him downfield, and he is dumped by Trollinger. Burks claims he has the ball. He had a man open, but he just couldn't get to him as Trollinger from the linebacking position dumped him. And the Pointers are going to go to the sideline and try desperately to work something out because they're having some gaping holes defensively.
Brings up 4th and 21.
4th and 21, as you may have heard from the PA. The PA klaxon is about 2 feet from my microphone, so this is going to be interesting. Again, the Pointers get a good bounce, and the Bulldogs are going to set up right at the 30-yard line. And they were at the 20-yard line last time. Just some tremendous bounces for the punter for the Pointers. So at 3:17, the Bulldogs set up with their second possession. Their last one resulted in a touchdown as they went 72 yards for a touchdown and did it all on the ground and just had some tremendous holes open up. We'll see what the offensive line is able to do. The Tennessee defense is what this is called. Good run by Corey Wagner. Wagner got to the line of scrimmage, really wasn't anything there, just sort of tippy-toed around, cut back to his left, found some running room, and they just had a difficult time bringing him down. And I tell you what, so far tonight, the Van Buren defense looks like a submarine with a screen door. I tell you what, the Springdale running backs are finding their way through the front of that defense. Trollinger takes the ball, and he's going to get a Springdale 1st and 10. Now, let me set this in context for you because this is the team that defeated Russellville last week. This is the team that we're up against tonight that defeated Fayetteville. This is the team that is hoping to earn a playoff spot if things go their way. And the Bulldogs, so far, are just really teaching them how things are to be in the Quad 4A West. Here's Trollinger on a sweep play, and the Pointers, for the first time, show some promise, and we've got a penalty flag. We've got a hold against the Bulldogs is going to be the call, and so Springdale's going to be backed up. That was the first time that the Pointer defense was able to bring anything in terms of pressure against the Bulldogs to bear, and they are going to back up now with their first penalty of the evening, holding penalty, 15-yard penalty. Well, it was a good night for football if you made the trip down, and about a couple of hundred people from Springdale did so, made their way down here. We may be able to get a shot of the Springdale crowd in just a moment. Let you see just exactly who all was there. Maybe you recognize yourself if you made the trip down. Some of you watching tonight, you didn't make the trip, and you're just kind of curious. You know the score, but you wonder how it all happened. Well, we're happy to bring you this playback. It's our 8th year of doing this, and we want to continue doing that. We're looking forward to the concluding game at Bulldogs Stadium, and then, of course, next year we'll be back with coverage of the Bulldogs. Here's Trollinger in motion. He hands off to the fullback, Corey Wagner, and that's the first time tonight that Wagner has been stuffed right at the line of scrimmage. He may even lose a yard or two. 136 and counting is where we stand. Left in the first quarter. Bulldogs up 7-0. The key for the Bulldogs is to be consistent tonight, not just score in the first quarter, but to put together some points throughout the game. We'll see if they're able to do exactly that. Big Rick Hammonds comes up and the center. Reed at quarterback, 2nd and 20 is what he's facing now. He's going to have a pass. He's got Price out in the open, but he's going to just overthrow him as Price tried to stretch out, and it went right off his fingertips, and it'll bring up a 3rd and 20 situation. Reed, as he rolled out, had good protection and had plenty of time, but was simply unable to get the ball right where it needed to be. That was a little bit of a timing play, and Price made a good effort stretching out. Just unable to bring it in. 3rd and 19 is what they call it, which is interesting. It was 3rd and 20. How do you gain a yard on an incomplete pass? You go figure that one, do the math on it. Same play as he rolls out to his right. And he is way wide that time, so the Bulldogs are going to be forced for the first time tonight to punt as a major penalty.
Breeze pass incomplete on the play.
Wipes away any possibility of putting anything together, and so Corey Wagner in to punt his first opportunity to do so this evening.
Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get on our feet and let the defense go. We appreciate it. What do you say, Buren? Where's that Buren pride?
Well, I'll tell you where Pointer pride is. It's behind 7-0. I apologize for that, but as I've said, I am 2 feet from the speaker for the host stadium. And I guess you can do that in your own home stands, just like I can say, "Go Bulldogs!" Just to provide a little balance to tonight's entertainment. That's right. Go pop some microwave popcorn. Get a Coke out.
Just outside the corner 35-yard line.
We'll try to get serious as the Pointers set up once again from their own 35-yard line. That's where they were last time. Let's see what the Springdale defense is able to do against this triple option threat. Gilstrap not really been able to show too much. Makes a long, long count. Hands off to the fullback, and he is just met by a host of Bulldogs. Good coverage by Springdale, but nonetheless, what a good fullback Damon Dunn is. At 220 pounds, they were on him almost immediately, but he still made 3-4 yards on the carry, so it's going to bring up a 2nd and 7 situation. Springdale's defense has really been the highlight of this team thus far this year. Gilstrap comes down the line. He pitches to his halfback, and he's got a 1st and 10 as he leaps over the tackler, and that was well designed. That's the end of the quarter, and the score is 7-0 Springdale. We'll take a 1-minute break and be back in just a moment.
You're watching one of the world's most advanced big screen televisions on the market today. It's made by RCA. It's like bring the theater home to you. Let Layman's bring a big screen RCA into your home.
Free delivery and in-store financing available. Open 7 to 6 Monday through Saturday. Layman's Furniture, Appliance, and Electronics, 509 East Emma, downtown Springdale. And tell them WL sent you.
First National Bank of Springdale is with you every day. We're with you when you're planning your future, or when you're building your future, or when you're enjoying the rewards of your labor. We've been a locally owned bank since 1907, helping to make your dreams come true then, and helping to make your dreams come true now. We're everything you want in a bank. We're First National Bank of Springdale. We're with you.
Well, there's a shot of Brian Cody, who does our field announcing. Will be with us next week. We get set with a 1st and 10 for the Pointers. Gilstrap takes the snap, hands off to his fullback. He's tackled by Sean Coble, but he does lean forward for about 4 yards on the carry, and they move into Springdale territory. This is the first time that they have been into Springdale's territory. Of course, if you joined us at the outset of the game, you know the Pointers on about the 2nd play of the ball game had a touchdown run of about 70 yards called back. Wishbone set. 2nd down and 6. He sends a man in motion. He pitches to the motion man. He falls down, and they're going to lose about 3 yards on the play. Brandon Hobbs was right there with him, along with Harold Simmons, and I don't think that he would have gotten very far at all, but it always helps when the running back fumbles the football. So Brandon Hobbs in for the ejected Butch Walker, who could not control his temper. And boy, what a lesson there is to learn there. So glad to have Brandon Hobbs. He's doing a good job at the monster position. There's the snap. It's a pass play. and he was heavily rushed. A good reception. Dustin Douglas. Is this a home field job or what? Hey, how about those Springdale Bulldogs? They're ahead 7-0. Well, we'll balance this out. But that was a good catch. Indeed, it brings up a 1st and 10 for the Pointers. Well, make a liar out of me, which isn't hard to do. 4th and inches. They did not make it. Dustin Douglas had applied the pressure there. We're going to mention Dustin's name a lot because he's ordered tapes of these games, and we just want to know that Dustin Douglas made a great play there. All right, big key point in the ball game. 4th and inches, 2nd quarter, and the quarterback Gilstrap just dives forward for the 1st and 10, so I can put my mark back on there that they have a 1st down. As you hear the PA. He's right below me, so I'll stomp on him. All right, the clock is rolling. We're under 10 minutes, and the Pointers are indeed putting together a drive. They're at their 41-yard line, or our 41-yard line, excuse me. It's homecoming for the Pointers, and so they're going to be motivated to try to win this game. Springdale's defense digs in. He pitches back, and good play as it was designed there, and he's going to be down close to 1st and 10. That was Heath Roberts. He's going to be about 2 yards short, so it's going to be a 2nd down and 2 situation. Bulldogs having a little bit more difficulty with the wishbone in this series than they have had in the other 2 series. Josh Trollinger calls the plays for the Bulldogs as the Pointers come out of the huddle. Gilstrap, and quarterback, sets them up. Hands off, fakes a handoff. Good play by Kirby Burks, but it's going to be a 1st and 10. And Gilstrap is going to get up slowly because Kirby Burks just shellacked him, but he'd already pitched the ball. And Johnson took the pitch out and made a 1st and 10. And so Van Buren now setting at the 26-yard line. Well, this guy will never be hired to be a major public address announcer. 1st and 10 for Van Buren. Gilstrap hands off to the fullback. He's tackled by Smith-Peters. He gains about 4 or 5 yards on the play. We'll call it 4, and we'll call it 2nd down and 6 for the Pointers. They've got plenty of time on the clock. It's 8:20.
Yeah, 5 brings up 2nd and 5 from the 22-yard line.
Key for the defense in stopping this is going to be the nose man, Brian Smith-Peters. He's had a great season thus far. Kirby Burks pops the quarterback again, but again he gets the handoff off. Bulldogs do a little bit better job this time of containing him, but he's going to be down close to 1st and 10 territory as he's at about the 16-yard line. And indeed, they call that a 1st and 10. So about the time you thought that the Bulldogs had things in hand, and the Pointers finally... I've covered high school football for years, and I have never heard anything quite like that. I hope the Springdale Bulldogs stuff it down this team's throat. I hope we beat them so bad and humiliate him so horribly.
Stepped at the line of scrimmage by 68, Brian Smith-Peters.
No, I'm not on Van Buren TV, so our video is on Van Buren TV, but not me, and it's a good thing because they would be calling me right now. And if any of you Van Buren people are in a hotel room watching this game, here we are. 2nd down, 10 for Van Buren. As he comes down the end, he tries to option, he pulls it back inside, and finally is brought down there by Ben Weber, who had an outstanding game last week. Boy, there it gives you a clue of the danger of that triple option. And the Van Buren Pointers finding themselves on this drive. Gilstrap was then able to show what really he hasn't been able to show yet tonight, is he faked the pitch and sort of froze the defenders and pulled it back in, was able to get around left in before he was finally driven out of bounds by Weber. 3rd and 2, big down for the Bulldogs. Hands off inside, and they're gonna stuff him. Kirby Burks makes the tackle. He wanted a handoff inside. He's going to lose 2 yards, and this is a key situation. It's a 4th down situation. 4th and about 3 yards to go. We're under 7 minutes. And we've got a timeout, and with that timeout, we're going to take timeout and be back in 30 seconds.
Timeout.
Amazing grace.
Well, we're back. There you see the score. It's not halftime yet, but it is 7-0 as Buck Webb, our director, is doing double duty, so that's not really his fault. All right, situation 4th down, 3 yards to go, 6:53, and Van Buren is going to go for it. He hands off inside, and he's going to get down to the 1 yard line, 1st and goal. I promise you at halftime I'm going to address this. This is absolutely the worst home job I've ever seen in my life.
1 yard line.
Well, you'll know if they score because their public address announcer will probably let you know that. I'm going to try to concentrate on my job, but it is a difficult situation for the Bulldogs. There you see the ball where it's at, touchdown. Gilstrap gets in on a half-yard sneak in the 2nd quarter. So it's 6:34, 1 yard touchdown run by the quarterback, Sean Gilstrap, puts the score now at 7-6, and we'll see if they're able to convert to tie it up. And Springdale's once again involved in a very, very tight football game. 34 for the Van Buren Pointers is the fullback, Damon Dunn. He's going to try to knot this thing up as they do the old swinging gate kind of routine, and their line gets set. There's a snap. There's the kick. It's up, and it's good. And with the score, Springdale 7, Van Buren 7. We'll take a break and be back in 30 seconds.
What is pizza integrity? Pizza, pasta, salad, dessert. That's pizza integrity. That's Pizza Inn.
Maybe you can be one of us, the few, the proud, the Marines.
Well, I did what I could. I asked for objectivity, and none would be received. The announcer did say when Springdale pays his salary, he'd be objective. Nobody pays my salary. I'll be objective. A good drive by the Pointers as they took the ball from their own 35-yard line and just really drove it down on Springdale as they were unable to stop the Pointers. 4th down situation deep. They converted. There's the kick, and it's taken at about the 19-yard line. Good run back. It's going to give the Bulldogs the ball up at about the 34-yard line. That was Barry Noblin. A good run back by Noblin. Okay, the Bulldogs set up now with the ball on their own 34-yard line.
First and 10 from the 34-yard line for the...
And we'll see what Springdale is able to do here with this situation. Inside handoff to Corey Wagner. And he does a good job as he bangs up for about 4 yards. And that had been one of the keys early for the Bulldogs as they were able to just drive through the defensive line of the Pointers. He picks up 5 yards on the 1st and 10 carry. Trollinger has the ball. He just bangs forward. He's going to get up close to 1st and 10 territory. It's going to be about a yard or two short. And so the Bulldogs are going to move into a 3rd and short situation. It'd be about 3rd down, 1 yard to go. Bulldogs send Galloway wide on 3rd and 1. He hands off to the fullback and he bangs his way forward inside Springdale territory, and Corey Wagner is having a banner night for the Bulldogs. Is that? Clock is running with 5:03 as the Bulldogs now have the ball at the 47-yard line. The score knotted up. Springdale plenty of time to get into the end zone. There's Trollinger in motion. He hands off to Wagner, and he just stopped initially at the line of scrimmage and then dives forward. Right at the 45-yard line is where they're going to mark this. Guinness homecoming for the Pointers, and so they're excited, obviously, about tonight's performance. 2nd down, about 7 yards to go.
From the 45-yard line.
Wolf, Trollinger, and Wagner in the backfield. Here's a handoff to Trollinger. He just drives forward. He's going to be close to 1st and 10. And Springdale's offensive line is driving back the defenders. Panalto gets up a little slowly there. And we certainly need Clint to hang in there. That offensive line has performed well at points this season, and tonight has done fairly well thus far in this game as Trollinger works to get set. Sends Wolf in motion, fumbles the football. Van Buren recovers. So the thing that Springdale did not want to do, driving the ball, that's the first turnover of the night, and it's a costly one as the ball is going to be recovered at the 39-yard line for the Pointers. So this is the 4th possession in the first half for the Pointers. They've put together 1 touchdown drive, as has Springdale. We'll see what the Springdale defenders are able to do here in this situation. Inside handoff to the running back, fullback. He has good running room before he's finally brought down. And he's brought down by Weber, as well as Jim Ed Reed, who is in playing defense. He got about 6-7 yards on the carry, and so it will be a 2nd down situation for the Pointers. And right now, what Springdale's defense needs to do is buckle down and stop the Pointers here and just get into halftime with a score knotted up and give themselves plenty of opportunity in the second half. Long snap count by Gilstrap. He hands off again to the fullback. He breaks into the open and is finally shoved out of bounds. At about the 31-yard line is where he's going to be knocked out of bounds.
And number 8, Jim Ed
Reed pushed him out of bounds. What the Bulldogs were doing was keen on the quarterback and the pitch man, left the fullback wide open, and he just bounced outside and took the ball down the sideline. But at 220 yards, just didn't have the kind of speed to break that one into the end zone. And I'm thankful that we're in Van Buren and not Norman, where their running backs are usually a little bit faster. Nonetheless, the 1st and 10 for the Pointers. Springdale blitzes and they get caught in it. Same situation. He just bowls over a Bulldog. Wolf. He gets inside the 20-yard line, and that's another 1st and 10 for the Pointers. Well, with 2:40 left in the quarter, Springdale's putting themselves in a difficult, precarious situation, and you would think that the coaches are going to go into the locker room and try to look at this one on the blackboard to just draw up exactly what's happening to the Bulldogs. Bulldogs almost have 10 men up on the line of scrimmage, just daring them to pass. And again, the play of the fullback, and the Bulldogs just unable to stop him. And he is just running wild. And we mentioned going into the game that this would be one of the keys of the game, would be stopping the play of the fullback. And at this point, Damon Dunn is having just a tremendous football game. And the Bulldogs, concentrating on everybody but that fullback, have been unable to stop him thus far. It's a 1st and goal situation. The ball is at just inside the 5-yard line. Actually, there you see a good shot there by Randall Reynolds, our cameraman. Gilstrap hands off or comes down the line, pitches to his tailback, and he's dropped for about a 3-yard loss. Brandon Hobbs there, along with a host of other Bulldogs, and they bring him down for a loss. We're right at 2 minutes in the half, and hopefully the Bulldogs could at least force the Pointers into a field goal situation. Right now it'd be a great time for the Bulldogs to have a goal line stand. It would be sorely needed. They put the fullback in motion. They pitch outside to the Johnson, the running back. He eludes several tacklers before he's finally brought down at about the 2-yard line, it appears. The Bulldogs had good penetration, were just unable to bring him down, and so it sets up a 3rd down situation and goal for the Bulldogs at 1:20 and counting. So big down here for the Bulldogs, big 2 downs as they try to stop him from the 2-yard line. Gilstrap hands off to the fullback. He just dribbles his way into the end zone at 59 seconds left in the second half. It's a 2-yard touchdown run by the fullback, Dunn. And Dunn really probably is the man who ought to get the touchdown on that, because he's the one who did really most of the work all the way down the field. 2 long runs by the fullback. He sets up for the PAT, and the Bulldogs fall behind 13-6 at 7 at this point, and the Pointers attempting the PAT. We'll see what they're able to do. Springdale involved once again in a tight, tough ball game. There's the kick. It's up, and it's good. And with the score 14-7, we'll take a break and be back in just a moment.
A baby cries, and mama rocks away the harm.
Every day, abortion denies 4,000 tiny unborn babies the right to live, the right to be loved, the right to take that first big step. 4,000 abortions a day, 1,500,000 abortions a year is a lot of love denied.
Well, the Springdale Bulldogs have had difficulty in the second quarter. They've given up 47 points to their 22 points in the second quarter coming into tonight's game. They've given up 14 straight points here in the second quarter, and they are now behind the Pointers 14-7. And that's kind of surprising, because initially things looked like they would go the Bulldogs' way, but the Pointers have found themselves offensively, and they've come out with a fury, particularly with a fullback play. And if Springdale's going to have any chance in this ball game, they've got to shut down the play of the fullback, Damon Dunn. Here's the kickoff for the Bulldogs, 59.4 seconds. He gets a tremendous kick. Wolf takes it at his 4-yard line, heads upfield, looks for some blockers, has some, breaks into the clear. He's got a couple of men to beat and is going to be brought down at about the 32-yard line. And Springdale will set up there with only their 4th possession of the night, and both of them, all 4 of them, have been around the 30-yard line. Interesting, this game has been a game that has been played almost exclusively on the ground. Springdale has attempted a couple of passes, but this is the 4th possession for both teams, and the clock is running, and Springdale probably will have a chance for maybe 2 plays at best. Reed drops back, looks deep for Wolf, has him. Wolf gets upfield, breaks some tackles, breaks into the side the 30. The Bulldogs have a timeout with 25.8, and Wolf very alertly does an expert thing. He looked, as soon as he got on the ground, started making timeout sounds or marks with his hand. The Bulldogs have a 1st and 10. It's their 6th of the night. They've set up at the 29-yard line with a timeout. We'll keep it here during this timeout. 25.8 seconds. You'd think the Bulldogs possibly would have a chance to have 2 plays and try to get it into the end zone. So good play by both Wolf and Jim Ed Reed. Reed perhaps underthrew the ball a little bit, but just some good running by Wolf as he cut back up inside and got down inside deep into Pointer territory. The Bulldogs have done some good things offensively tonight, but have hurt themselves with some penalties, one particular penalty, and just have not been able to consistently put together the kinds of drives that they need. And of course, not only the one penalty, but the big factor was the turnover when it appeared that Springdale was easily driving down the field, and from there the Pointers just stuffed it to the Springdale defense that has really played very, very well this year. So Springdale uses its spread offensive set. Reed has 25.8 seconds. He takes a straight drop back. He's being heavily blitzed and he's going to be dropped just right at the 39-yard line. The clock is stopped by the Bulldogs with 16.5 seconds.
67, Gary Weaver.
The linebackers for the Pointers came, and there just was no way that Reed would have any time to get that one off, and so he's dumped, and that's a big loss for the Bulldogs. Moves the ball back, and they will now have a 2nd and 20 situation. What a difference a year makes. This team last year came up to Springdale and just took a shellacking at the hands of the Springdale Bulldogs, and it was an easy breather for the Bulldogs. Springdale was just able to do about anything they wanted to do during that game. You remember that game perhaps by the fact that it snowed from beginning to the end of the game and the field was white. This is a different Pointer football team there in the thick of the race in the Quad 4A West, and that's a surprise to a lot of people because many people had picked them in the cellar, but they're fighting and struggling and hoping for some help tonight in some other ball games. It's been a wild and wacky year. Nobody probably would have predicted from Springdale's side of the scrimmage the kind of finish they'd have. Again, a heavy blitz. He gets the pass off. He's going to be down. And another timeout for the Bulldogs is their last. Trollinger caught the ball, tried to get by. The defender slipped down. It may not have been such a bad deal because had he gotten any further down the field, it might have eroded the time that was left on the clock. 10.7 seconds left in this first half. We're glad that you're with us and appreciate our sponsors for helping make this possible. First National Bank of Springdale. We think Pizza Inn. We've been running Pizza Inn as a sponsor. They've been with us from the beginning of our coverage. Lehman Shopping Center and Worthen National Bank as a sponsor of Bulldog football, and of course Elmdale Baptist Church. And if you don't have a church home, we'd like to recommend to you Elmdale Baptist Church. Their worship services begin at 11 o'clock every Sunday morning. They have Bible study time at 9:45. They'd be happy to have you come and be a part of their worship experience. Well, we're set with a 3rd and 15 situation, which is really not all that crucial. What is crucial is there are 10.7 seconds left on the clock for the Bulldogs.
34-yard line for the Bulldogs.
As they set up with their spread offense, he's looking for Davenport. He has him. They're going to be out of timeouts. The clock is going to stop until they set the change. It's going to be a 1st and 10. It's not going to do the Bulldogs much good. They have no timeouts left. As soon as the chains are set, And they're going to have a penalty on this play, and they don't get it off. Well, that's the end of the half. The score 14-7. The Pointers coming back in the second quarter. And we're going to take just a brief break, and we'll be back with the second half. We get set to start the second half. The Bulldogs down by a touchdown to the Pointers, and that seems to have been the story of the Springdale Bulldogs season, down by a touchdown. The good news for the Bulldogs is that they will begin the second half with the ball, and the Bulldogs are only stopped one time by the Pointers. They fumbled once. The half ended the last drive, and they drove on the opening possession for a touchdown. Kick is going to be taken by Jason Wolf. He comes around the left side, and it's going to get pretty good coverage. He's going to get up close to the 30-yard line. They're going to mark him at about the 28-yard line, and so Springdale will set up. Incidentally, is where they began their first drive of the evening, from their 28-yard line, and hopefully they can repeat what they established on that opening drive and knot this ball game up. The offensive line performed well in the first half, at times dominated the line of scrimmage. We'll see what they can do here as Josh Trollinger. He's going to get maybe a yard or two. The hole closed down very quickly. The linebackers came into the gap that had been created by the linemen and shut that one down. Trollinger is going to gain maybe a half yard at best, and it'll be a second down and about 9 yards to go for the 1st and 10. So again, we hope the Bulldogs able to show some offense here in the second half, and particularly show some defense in stopping the fullback play, which really hurt them badly in the first half. Reed hands off, or fakes a handoff, comes around the end. He's got plenty of running room. He's up and has a 1st and 10. Good running room for Reed. Bulldogs pick up the first and 10 of the second half. They had 7 1st and 10s in the first half to Van Buren's 8 1st and 10s. Van Buren scored on their last 2 possessions in the first half and the second quarter to bring them to the point where they're ahead 14-7. So we'll see what Reed's able to do on the 1st and 10 situation. Ball's just over the 40-yard line. Trollinger, or actually that's Corey Wagner. He gets loose, and he's got couple of men that he has to try to elude. He gets a big play for the Bulldogs, and that's kind of thing that the Springdale Bulldogs have lacked in this October stretch, is the big play. He gets down to the Van Buren 33-yard line, and so Springdale very early in the second half threatening here. Both fullbacks for these teams have made tremendous plays. Corey Wagner's had a great night thus far, but he gets stuffed there along with Reed. Reed pulled the ball out, just nowhere to go. Big loss for the Bulldogs. They're going to drop him for about a 4-yard loss, so bring up second down and 14. The Bulldogs, as they did last week, completed a pass deep and ran out of time. And had the Bulldogs been able to have a little bit more time, or at least have the opportunity to have another timeout, they might have been able to put something together. Reed sends Price out wide on 2nd and 14. Drops back. He's got good coverage going deep, and is almost intercepted. Wolf has to play a little bit of defender and bat the ball away. Brings up a 3rd down situation for Springdale.
Broken up by number 3, Heath Roberts for the Pointers.
That's 1st and 10 lost. Really threw Springdale out of their offensive strategy, and we talked about that in the first half. In the wishbone sets, very important to dominate the team on 1st and 10. And in any real offensive set, if you can throw the team for a loss on 1st and 10, you sort of throw them out of their game plan. So we'll see what the Bulldogs are able to do here. 3rd down, and this could be 4-down territory if they make enough yardage on this play. Bulldogs set up a screen play. It's dropped, and Wolf just not able to connect with it. And we'll see if Gerald Williams goes for it here, or if he tries to play a field position game. Sends in the sends in the punting team, and he'll probably just say to Wagner, just pooch kick this thing down and try to pinned the Pointers back deep, and so the Bulldogs have been held here at 9:48. Of course, we remember one time before, Sean Friesen took a fake and ran for big yardage, but they're going to punt this time. Wagner just sends a little pooch kick up. He calls a fair catch, but it's going to go, well, it died right on about the 1 yard line. The Bulldogs, tremendous play right there. And so the Pointers, the ball just sort of died. I thought it was going to bounce into the end zone, and it just literally died. And we'll get a shot down, hopefully, by our field cameraman. Once again, our poor cameraman operating without the benefit of headphones, and so we'll see where that ball is setting, but it looks to be at about the 1 yard line. So the Pointers will set up here deep in their own territory at 9:28, and if ever the Bulldogs needed to make some big plays, now's the time. Gilstrap just tries to sneak forward to get some running room. He's going to be brought down and going to gain maybe a yard or so. And literally the ball was at about the half-inch point from the goal line. It's going to be a 2nd down and 8 situation. They're going to give him a couple of yards on the carry. Bulldogs substitute. Smith Peters limps off the field. Hopefully he'll be able to come back in and make his presence felt. Gilstrap always takes a long time at the line of scrimmage. He hands off to the fullback. He breaks several tackles, has a 1st and 10, and what caused the Springdale Bulldogs great difficulty in the first half is in this opening possession by the Pointers proving to be difficult for them again, and that's the fullback play of Damon Dunn. I didn't keep yardage on any of the running backs, but Damon Dunn has to be up close to the 100-yard mark, if not over it by now. And he's just had a tremendous game thus far, and he's just a ton of bricks, hard to bring down. Good-looking fullback at 220 pounds. And to make a dent in this ball game, they're going to have to find a way to stop him. And Van Buren again hands off to him, and he just carries the ball forward for about 5 yards up just over the 20-yard line. 5 yards every time will get you marched right down the field. And the Springdale Bulldogs, who had done very well initially, holding Van Buren, is having some difficulty at these last 2 possessions. And generally it goes the other way with the defense. They adjust to the wishbone, but the Bulldogs, as of yet, have not been able to stop that fullback. Again, they hand off to the fullback, and this time the Bulldogs do indeed stop him.
Done on the carry.
Kirby Burks in along
62, Ben Weber
with Ben Weber. Sorry, Ben. Ben made some tremendous tackles last week in a losing effort. It's a 3rd down situation for the Pointers, 4 yards to go. And Springdale, as we've said before, needs to dig in here and bring the Pointers to a punting situation and try to get the ball back. They shift around, hands off to the fullback, and indeed it appears that the Bulldogs have held. Good surge in there by the Bulldogs. Harold Simmons, one of the key men, along with Ben Weber, and it's going to bring up a 4th and about 4 situation. And so the Pointers are going to have to punt after about a 6-play drive. Wolf back deep for the Bulldogs. The punt is off. I tell you, their punter is leading a charmed life. He has gotten the bounce on every punt tonight, and that is his 3rd punt, and every one of them have bounced deep. And the Bulldogs, and this is almost like a broken record, are set up at the 30-yard line. They have had possessions from their own 28, their own 30, their own 34, their own 30, their own 28, and now their own 30 once again. And so Reed with 6:13 in the quarter sends Trollinger in motion. He hands off to the fullback, and the fullback, who has done just a tremendous job tonight, Corey Wagner, drives forward for about 5 yards. The story thus far in this game has been fullback play on both teams, but particularly for the Pointers, Damon Dunn. Springdale involved in another tough, nail-biting game where one touchdown separates them. Trollinger again in motion. Reed's going to hand off to Wolf. Wolf on the little trap play is going to be up close to 1st and 10, but he's going to be about a yard short. So it'll bring up a 3rd down in one situation for the Bulldogs. Fans here at Van Buren try to fire their defensive unit up, and I'm sure the announcer in just a moment will do his best to fire up the Pointer team. I think we all ought to just write letters to the Van Buren school people and tell them how we appreciate it. Well, anyway, here we go. 3rd and 1. Great play by Corey Wagner as he was hit initially in the backfield. Would have been dropped for the loss, but he sheds the tackler and picks up the 1st and 10 as he moves up to about the 48-yard line for the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs have been able to move the ball tonight. They've been stopped by 1 penalty and 1 fumble. And they've also punted 2 times as they made a couple of first downs on their last drive before they stalled out on that first big 1st and 10 loss. Reed hands off to Wolf. Wolf in the trap play. He's going to make it across the 50-yard line. Now they're going to mark him at about the 49-yard line, so it's about a 3-yard pickup. It'll be 2nd down. You can encourage you to come out to Bulldog Stadium this Friday night. I know it's been a tough year for the Bulldogs, but it's Fayetteville week, and you can throw out the record book. It doesn't matter what the records of either one of those teams are. It's going to be a great contest, and we hope you'll come out and support the Bulldogs in their last game of the season. Here's Reed as he comes down the line, cuts it back inside. They wrap him up, but he picks up a couple of yards. It'll bring up a pivotal 3rd down play for Springdale. 3rd and about 6 yards for the Bulldogs. We're at 3:40 and counting. Here's Reed. He drops back, has Davenport wide open. Davenport gets loose and gets down to the 30-yard line, and the Bulldogs keep their drive alive. Just quick pop to Davenport. Boy, Big Joe Dean just hauled it down, took off running, and he gets down to the 31-yard line. By the way, I might remind you, those of you who are watching, students, there is going to be a 5th quarter after the Fayetteville game Elmdale Baptist Church will be having. You can meet at Elmdale Baptist Church immediately after the game, and you'll have a great time. Hope you can be there. Here's the handoff. He fakes it, pitches to Trollinger. He's got great running room to the outside, and he's driven out of bounds at about the 16-yard line. Boy, and that was one of those plays where inches further away, and it could have been disaster, but Jim Ed Reed had a perfect pitch to Trollinger as he sprinted down the left sideline, and he makes a 1st and 10. I'm going to be called officially at the 16-yard line, so at 3:06, the Bulldogs are moving, and the 3rd quarter has been their worst quarter. They've only scored 3 points all season long in the 3rd quarter. So Reed hopes to eradicate that as he pitches again to Trollinger. Trollinger gets good running room, and what a tough running back Josh Trollinger is. He just bangs his way down inside the 10-yard line. And we said earlier in the broadcast, when Josh Trollinger has a good game, Springdale has had good games, and Trollinger quickly picks up a couple of big gainers and gets down inside the 10-yard line. The Bulldogs just very methodically moving the ball against the Pointer defense. Here's Corey Wagner on the handoff. He sheds tons of tacklers and gets into the end zone. Touchdown, Springdale Bulldogs at the 2:27 mark on a 9-yard TD run. Corey Wagner gets the Bulldogs back on the scoring track. And Wagner will be able to attempt the PAT that hopefully will tie this game up. There's a snap, it's up, it's good. It's a good kick. And with 2:27 left, the score is 14-14. We'll be back in a moment.
First National Bank of Springdale is with you every day. We're with you when you're planning your future, or when you're building your future, or when you're enjoying the rewards of your labor. We've been a locally owned bank since 1907, helping to make your dreams come true then, and helping to make your dreams come true now. We're everything you want in a bank. We're First National Bank of Springdale.
What is pizza integrity? Pizza, pasta, salad, dessert. That's pizza integrity. That's Pizza Inn.
I'm Corporal Michael Stitzel. Maybe you have the power.
There you see Corey Wagner set to kick off. He's just tied this game at 14 with 2:27 left. The Springdale Bulldogs methodically driving down the field, showing their best offensive showing in some time. Ball's taken at about the 14-yard line, and they have a hard time bringing him down, but they do so. That's Dustin Scott as he's brought down, and Brian Smith-Peters slow getting up, and that's going to be a much needed position for the Bulldogs, as the key thing for them is going to be stopping the play of the fullback. They have an official's timeout as Smith-Peters makes his way to the sideline. So the Pointers are going to set up with their own 26-yard line on their second possession of the night. And it's almost like you know what they're going to do. And indeed, they hand off to the fullback. Brandon Hobbs, or actually it was Kirby Burks, got to him first, tripped him up, and he fell forward for about even a couple of yards on the play. And that's time to celebrate for the Bulldogs, because they've had a tough time bringing down Damon Dunn. Damon Dunn, 5'10", 220 pounds. I don't know that he'd be a major college player, but he's a great fullback in this kind of a setup. Well, the Bulldogs jump off sides, and so everybody's pointing at everybody, but I don't think this one's going to go Springdale's way. It's kind of like if you point hard enough, maybe it'll work. We'll see. Maybe they did indeed. Nah, I didn't think so. I didn't see any movement. I saw a lot of pointing, but I didn't see any movement, as you see the mark by the official. And it's offside against Springdale. Yeah, that's a...
Good guys won the pointing contest, man.
That's a penalty against the Bulldogs as we work hard to try to endure what is obviously the most Bush League announcer I've ever heard in my life. If you're related to him, I'm sorry. That's Bush League. Here we go. Second down, 3. A big break for the Pointers there. Comes down to a pitch out, and just a tremendous defensive play by the Bulldogs. Tim Williams makes the sack there, but there were a ton of Bulldogs who made a great play. They're going to give him his forward progress, and so the ball is going to be marked at the 26-yard line. It'll be a 3rd and 9 situation, and those are the kinds of things that the Bulldogs need to do. They've contained the pitch man fairly well tonight. It's the fullback that they've had trouble with. And we're running down to this probably could be the last play of the 3rd quarter, and so it's going to be a 4th quarter game for both teams here, unless something tremendously huge happens here in this play. Hands off to the fullback, and he gets stuffed for maybe 2 or 3 yards, and so the Pointers are going to have to punt. He gets up across the 31-yard line. 4 downs, and they punt. So Springdale does a good job defensively there the last two series. And I'm not sure that they're going to be able to get this one off before the quarter ends. Yeah, he does. He gets the snap off. He gets a high punt. It's a fair catch being called for. That ought to be a penalty. You got to give at least a yard for the receiving team. That's the end of the quarter, and with that, the score 14-14. We'll take a break and be back in a moment.
You're watching one of the world's most advanced big screen televisions on the market today. It's made by RCA. It's like bring the theater home to you. Let Layman's bring a big screen RCA into your home.
Free delivery and in-store financing available. Open 7 to 6 Monday through Saturday. Layman's Furniture, Appliance, and Electronics, 509 East Emma, downtown Springdale. And tell them WL sent you.
To love and to cherish.
To love and to cherish.
To forsake.
We've heard a lot about safe sex lately.
And cleave only to you.
And cleave only to you.
God's had a plan all along.
As long as we both shall live.
Well, welcome back. You see the scoreboard there. Van Buren 14, Springdale 14. The Bulldogs have looked well offensively. They set up with their best field position of the night, their own 42-yard line. Jim Ed Reed has quarterbacked all the way for Springdale. He hands off on a sweep play, and the Pointers have that one covered very, very well. That was number 43, Brian Kick, on the play. He's going to lose 3 yards, and it'll bring up a second down and 13. Well, Wagner, this could be major. Wagner is hurt on the play. And boy, Wagner really has had a tremendous night. From the looks of things, it could be a leg cramp that they're working on, and you certainly hope it's nothing more serious than that, as he's had a tremendous night at the fullback slot. But when you start thinking about Wagner, you start thinking about some other things. His punting ability, which has really helped the Bulldogs out. And then beyond that, you've got to talk about the fact that he is the extra point and field goal kicker, and we're involved in a tight ball game, and it could very well come down to a kick. It looks like he's all right as he gets up, and that may indeed have been the case, that he just developed a cramp. So the Bulldogs thrown back to the 38-yard line with second down, and about 14 to go. Sean Friesen is in for Wagner, along with Trollinger in the backfield. Trollinger goes in motion. Friesen takes the handoff. He drives forward and gets up to about the 44-yard line. Sean Friesen's had some good runs this year. Yeah, it's good to see Corey Wagner come back in. Friesen did a good job in his place. Third down, and looks to be about 7 yards to go for 1st and 10, and each possession for each of these teams at this point in this game is pivotal. Reed drops back, looks for a man, throws an interception, and this one is a big turnover for the Bulldogs as they give up an interception, and that's going to give the Pointers a 1st and 10 at the 42-yard line. Well, really, the play was made there by the defense, who put a little bit of pressure on Jim Ed, and he just looked to try to get rid of it as quickly as he could. So the Bulldogs need to dig in here. You certainly don't want to give up any points this late in the game. There's the handoff to the tailback, a good play by the Pointers, and they're going to make a 1st and 10. A play was saved there by, well, that was Brandon Hobbs who brought him down. That was Tony Johnson, and they're going to pick up just their second 1st and 10 of the night. The ball's at the 27-yard line. 10-16 is where we're at and counting. Handoff to the fullback inside. He falls forward to about the 20-yard line. Now they're going to mark him at about the 22, so he'll pick up about 5 yards on the carry.
And on the tackle for the Springdale Bulldogs.
Appreciate you watching our replay or playback. I'll remind you again, if you're watching on Tuesday, it will be played again Thursday night. Depending on the outcome, you may or may not want to watch it again. Gilstrap at quarterback, hands off to his up man, and he is smothered by the Bulldogs. They're going to stop him just inside the 20-yard line. It's going to bring up a key third down situation. You would think here that the Pointers, if they did not make it, would probably go on 4th down. Not sure of their field goal kicker's capability, if it's of the quality that you'd go for a field goal from here. It'd be a rather long field goal. So the Bulldogs will try to stop the Pointers here. Long count. He hands off inside, and they indeed do stop him. He doesn't pick up really anything, and so it's going to be a time of decision. They're going to mark him actually maybe back a half yard. He's going to have 4th down. They're going to call it 2, but it's a long 2. And indeed, they do appear to be going for it. This could be one of the key plays in this ball game. Both sides of the stadium and treat their troops to do their best. That looked like motion to me. They pitched out, and it's going to depend on his mark. He's got the 1st and 10. I thought they had backfield in motion there, but the Pointers make a pivotal 1st and 10 there. They faked to the inside man. Springdale had that jammed up, and he pitched outside to number 3, Heath Roberts, and he was able to just make it forward enough to get a 1st and 10. He actually made it by about 3 or 4 yards. So the ball is now the 16-yard line. One of the big things, too, about this drive is they're able to eat up some time off the clock. Bulldogs trying to stop the Pointers. There's a quarterback sneak. He's going to pick up maybe a couple of yards. Not quite sure why the Pointers felt the need to call that play. Gilstrap really hadn't been that big of a factor in the game, and that's kind of surprising because I think a lot of the people coming into tonight's game thought that he would play predominantly in this game, but the big man thus far has been Damon Dunn, and he's hammered away at the Bulldogs, though they have done a better job here. They picked up 4 yards, so it's 2nd down and 6, and I guess you take 4 yards any way you can get them on 1st and 10. He hands off inside to his running back, who gets down to the 2-yard line. That'll give them a 1st and goal. So Springdale's defense, which has performed admirably and really has pretty much done well in the 4th quarter, is being threatened here in the 4th quarter. 3-yard line is where the ball is set. They send the fullback in motion. He sneaks forward, and he has a touchdown. So it's 7-16. Gilstrap makes a 3-yard sneak for a touchdown. And the Pointers go up 20-14. And Dunn gets set for very crucial PAT, and he's not had any difficulty nailing any of the previous point afters. And the Pointers do a little swinging gate number, and we'll see if the Bulldogs can somehow block this kick. It's a high kick. He's going to go try to run it in. The Bulldogs stop him, and so that's pivotal. The PAT is no good. With 7:16 left in the game, the Bulldogs are behind now 20-14. We'll take a break and be back in just a moment.
We're on a first-name basis in communities from Magnolia to Mountain Home. We back the hometown heroes in dozens of high schools throughout the state. And for years, we've helped with first dates, weddings, and second homes. Last Saturday, we made the loan for the boat and had quick cash for the bait, too. In fact, wherever you live, a little of us will rub off on you. Because no matter where you go in Arkansas, the local color is true blue.
Well, not sure if it was planned the way it happened, but the Pointers attempted to see went right to Damon Dunn, so it may have been a planned run there. So the seconds. Barry Noblin kickoff and gets up to about the 28-yard line. That's where the Bulldogs
Barry Noblin returning for the
are going to set up.
83, Eddie Joyson on the tackle, along with 35, Dustin Scott.
Referee signals for the clock to begin, and when this snap is taken, it'll be under 7 minutes for Springdale, and as they have a long way to go, but plenty of time and all their timeouts left. Hands off inside of the fullback. He gets up just across the 30-yard line. Brings about 2 yards, so it'll bring up a 2nd down and 8 situation. That was Corey Wagner. And of course, the key thing is going to be if the Bulldogs can get in the end zone, it'll come down to Dale up.
Gain of 2 brings up 2nd and 8.
2nd down and 8 for Jim Ed Reed and the Springdale Bulldogs. They hand off to Trollinger on a sweep play. He gets some running room and dives forward for a 1st and 10. They're going to mark him at about the 42-yard line. Springdale is showing good offense tonight, and it's been the thing that has been lacking for them, along with points. There you see a good tight shot of Josh Trollinger.
From their 42-yard line.
Bulldogs have a 1st and 10. And this is ironically where they set up shop on their last possession before the interception that Jim Ed Reed threw. Trollinger going to try the left side. Good linebacker play there by number 72, Danny Ray, for the Pointers, or Josh Trollinger would have probably had an identical kind of run to the left side. So it's going to bring up a 2nd down and 12 situation for the Bulldogs. There's 5:40 and counting left in this game. The Bulldogs down by just 6 points. And if the Bulldogs lose this one, it'd be another game in which they lost by a touchdown or less. And of course, we hope for better things for them. Jim Ed Reed throws him Trollinger. It's a halfback pass. It should have been holding. Wolf was held. The referee did not see it. 3rd and 12. And so the Bulldogs reaching down with 5:19 to try to get something going here offensively, but the Pointers were not fooled on that play at all. Wolf was bumped a little bit, but sort of an incidental hole there. Wasn't flagrant enough, I suppose, for the official to call. And the Bulldogs are in a key situation here. 3rd and 12 from their 40-yard line. They come out with their spread offensive set. Reed's going to get a little bit of pressure. He's got plenty of time. He slips down and is tackled at the 30-yard line. The Bulldogs are going to be forced to punt. Reed simply couldn't find an open man. He had good coverage for quite a while. And as he tried to make a move to elude the one man that was bringing pressure on him, he simply slipped down. And Corey Wagner is going to be called upon to try to pin the Pointers back deep with a punt. Pointers have 9 men up on the line of scrimmage. Here's a snap, rather high. He brings it down, just does get it off. Fair catch is going to be called for, and the Pointers are going to set up at their own 38-yard line. So Springdale, after making a couple of 1st and 10s, or at least one 1st and 10, asked to punt after a short 8-play drive. And it's going to be up to the defense of Springdale to force a turnover or at least stop the Pointers and put them in a punting situation.
1st and 10 from 38-yard line.
20-14 is the score. If you've joined us late, if you were asleep throughout the weekend, didn't read the paper, the Springdale Bulldogs trail the Van Buren Pointers in the 4th quarter. He fakes a handoff to the fullback and pulled it out as his fullback was converged upon, and they drop him at about the 41-yard line. He's going to pick up about 2 yards. Springdale does have all of its timeouts, as I believe the Pointers do also. And of course they will be in no hurry as they come to the line of scrimmage and stand and wait for the clock to roll down. They take a long time at any rate. He hands off to the fullback. He's stuffed at the line of scrimmage. He's going to get maybe a yard or so. It'll bring up a 3rd down situation for the Bulldogs here. It'd be 3rd and 7, so Springdale, maybe 3rd and 6. Springdale needs to stop them here. If they did hold them, they would get the ball back with about 2.5 minutes left. We're at 3:30 and counting. And you can be assured that the Pointers will try to take as much time off the clock as they possibly can, but you would also think that they would be a little conservative here at this point in the ball game. He hands off. It's going to be very, very close. It's going to depend on the mark. They're going to measure this one. From our vantage point, it looks as if they're short, but it's going to be very, very close. There's 3:03 left in the game. Of course, the fans here are encouraging him to go for it. First and 10. Boy, that's a big, big 1st and 10. It's the 5th of the half. Well, the PA announcer said it was a 1st and 10 by the small of a very, by the what? I can't even remember what he said. The small size of a small crappie. Wish he was fishing. 2:50 and counting. The Bulldogs are going to have to start using their timeouts and use them very quickly. They come forward and just unable to wrap up the running back. He gets down to the 45-yard line. Finally brought down, but he picks up about 7 yards, and it'll be a 2nd down and 3 situation at a point in time where you desperately need to make something happen. The Bulldogs are having hard time stopping the fullback play, and the Pointers at 2:17. And you'd think that probably after this play, the Bulldogs would have to start using their timeouts. Pointers spread things out just a little bit, send a fullback in motion. Quarterback sneaks forward. He's got a 1st and 10. Well, they're scrambling for the ball, but they're going to call him down. That's going to do it right there, unless the Pointers fumble. It's going to be all over at this point. And you're probably reaching for the box to switch something else on. And the Springdale Bulldogs, boy, has this been a story of their season or what? A close, tough game, and just have lost down in the stretch, 20-14. And I tell you what, you just hurt for these young men. They're better than this. They could very easily have had a different kind of season than what they've experienced thus far. Need to make something happen here to get back in the game. It's not inconceivable, but it does certainly look difficult for the Bulldogs. They're just going to hand off to the fullback inside, and you'd think the Springdale Bulldogs would take timeout, and indeed they do. They have 2 more timeouts. They held the fullback for short yardage. He got about 2 yards. They take timeout. With that, we'll take timeout. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
He maketh me to lie down in green pastures.
He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul.
He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil.
For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me.
Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of my enemies.
Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life.
And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Well, there you see a shot of, or did see a shot of Coach Gary Autry, who's the head coach here at Van Buren, and he has done a good job getting this ball club turned around. They took a thumping last year at the hands of Springdale and have come back and have played very well. Second down, 8 yards to go. They hand off to the fullback. He leans forward for a couple. Springdale calls timeout to their second. 1:21 went off the clock. Springdale could. They have one timeout left. Get the ball back if they can hold them. Yeah, big question for the Pointers would be, at this point, we'll keep it here, would be if they would punt it away and try to drive the Bulldogs back deep, or go for it and just take more time off the clock. Well, we'll see. Whatever will be here, we'll bring it to you. Win, lose, or draw, we follow the Bulldogs. We're faithful and appreciate all the fans who came down and supported the Bulldogs on this trip, and I hope that you'll turn out Friday night. The Bulldogs will need a great home crowd. And we've mentioned before, as you see the Pointer band there, that you can always throw away the record book, because when it's Springdale, Fayetteville, it really doesn't matter. These teams are going to come back and be fired up, and the Bulldogs will forget about this game, forget about the week they've had, and get fired up. Well, if the Bulldogs have any hope, they've got to, right here, shut down the Pointers and call another timeout as they fake a blitz. Gilstrap, the quarterback, comes down the line of scrimmage. He's got running room, going to be driven out of bounds, but he's going to have a 1st and 10. And any hope the Bulldogs might have had are gone now.
Pushed out of bounds by Jimmy Reed.
Pointers make their 7th 1st and 10, and so they will lead the Bulldogs in that department, as well as Springdale's made 6 1st and 10. There's 1 at 15 left, and since Gilstrap was driven out of bounds, the clock did stop.
First down for the Pointers.
Another tough loss for the Bulldogs is what it appears to be, unless the Pointers turn the ball over. Gilstrap hands off to the fullback, and he's going to gain only a yard or so. Bulldogs trying to reach in, but of course the whistle blows, and that's the end of that play. The Bulldogs call their last timeout. We'll take our final timeout before the end of this game. We'll be back in just a moment.
Physical fitness is a wonderful thing. You've got more than a body to work on. You've got a spirit, too. And until you get in touch with God, you'll never be fully developed. Save some energy for a night of worship and learn what it means to exercise your faith.
This guy can fly. Bang, we got him on the Roz. Just trying to target us. Jam him.
Space technology of the 21st century.
He's pulling a 7G turn out of here.
It's here, now, in the Air Force. Aim high. Air Force.
Well, we're back, and the situation is it's 106. The ball's on the 22-yard line. It's 2nd down and about 8 yards to go for the Pointers of Van Buren, who have kept themselves in the Quad 4A West, at least thus far. No indication yet what's happening around the league. And Gilstrap comes down the line and gets dumped. Springdale has no more timeouts, so there's only a minute left, 3rd down. And it depends really. Well, we got a penalty flag, and you hate to see something like that at this point. Not sure really what happened there, but we're going to have an unsportsmanlike call against the Bulldogs. And I know the Bulldogs frustrated about how things are turning out in this year and with this game, and another tough nail-biting loss. And now you've got to hope that the Bulldogs, just for pride's sake, can keep this thing from getting out of hand, because that's the kind of situation then the other team just says, hey, we'll show you. We'll try to run the score up.
That's sportsmanlike conduct against the Bulldogs.
Well, the clock is running. This could be the last play of the game. It would depend upon the spot. Of course, the Bulldogs need a miracle, some kind of fumble, and bounce up in their hand, maybe run it back for a touchdown. About the only hope that they would have. And they just tried a little inside fullback play. And that's going to be it, because by the time they set the ball, and that's going to be the end of the game. Well, the Springdale Bulldogs have taken another hard defeat. Thanks for watching tonight. Jeff Kimes has been our main cameraman here up in the press box with me. Buck Webb has been our director. We have had, as I try to think, Randall Reynolds, one of our field cameramen. Josh Hammonds has also been our field cameraman. I hope that you'll be with us next week as we bring the final game, Springdale-Fayetteville, and I hope you'll also show up at Bulldog Stadium this Friday night, 7:30, as the Bulldogs try to close out the season with a win. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you and your patronage. You have a good evening.